everybody, this is Strange. I'm back with another tutorial. This time I'm talking about mod maintenance, which is a complete rewrite of an old component that we had called mod swap. The main difference in this is that we've fully integrated loadout definitions and we've added some integration with mod depth too. So it's a complete rewrite, but if you're familiar with mod swap, you should be familiar with mod maintenance. And this video will cover everything, so you don't have to have used that tool before. So what's the purpose of mod maintenance? We have three main modding tools in HotUtils. The first one is mod management, and the purpose of mod management is to slice and level large amounts of mods at once. This you usually do daily. You usually go in, buy 20 or 30 mods every day through the challenges, then you come into HotUtils and you can quickly and easy level them up. Mod maintenance is something that you'll use not quite as often, but once you've accumulated some good mods, maybe after a couple of weeks or a couple of months of using mod management and just your daily farming, and you want to find good homes for those mods. You've got some, fast speeds, and you want to find a unit that would benefit from it. But you want to minimize the amount of mod movement. You don't want to do a full roster remod. And you also have some mods that are decent. They've got okay speeds, but you're not sure if you can sell them or not. So your inventory becomes bloated, and you kind of become paralyzed with, I don't know where to move these mods because I don't want to totally mess up my roster. I'm not sure if I want to sell it or not. So a lot of people get overwhelmed and they kind of stop farming mods. I think mod maintenance is a good tool if you're having that problem. Playground is the other end of the spectrum, where you kind of need a PhD to use it in a sense. Where you're doing a full roster remod, you might have a lot of stat targets and a lot of mod movement. Playground's really great for that, but it can be a little overwhelming at times. I think mod maintenance is good because it's pretty straightforward. The changes you make, you see on an individual mod basis. You can kind of stop doing it when you want to, but it's a little bit more fun to use because you really understand what's going on. Before we get started, there's a couple of things that we'll have to do. I'll go over them briefly, but I'm not going to go over them in depth because they're covered in other videos, and hopefully you have some kind of understanding. First one, we're going to create a loadout, and then the second one is we're going to briefly go over mod depth because you'll see some of those charts while using mod maintenance. Most of you should be familiar with creating a loadout. If you haven't, you just go to the loadouts component here. You click create new loadout, you give it a name. I'm going to call this maintenance demo. I'm going to use all the characters in the loadout, and I'm going to go ahead and create a new loadout. Now, if you're already familiar with loadouts and you have a baseline that you've used, great, we can use that again. If you've used Playground and you've integrated stat targets and weights and you have a loadout for that, that's even better. You're gonna get more use out of that. But if you're brand new, you can still use just a loadout like this. It's going to use our default weights through HotUtils. It'll work perfectly well. Second thing I want to show is mod depth. Now, if you've used mod depth before, we've moved it to its own component. But what mod depth does is it shows you how deep you are at different mod sets and different mod primaries. We've changed mod depth to work. By default, it will use the HotUtils definition for what the best set and primaries are for every unit. If you want to see what those are, you can go ahead and click on mod depth, and then here we see speed sets, and for instance a speed set with a circle protection primary. The units that like to use that, you go ahead and click on that, and you'll see a list of the units that want to use this set. We will update this semi-frequently, and if you're fine with the HotUtils defaults, you can just go ahead and leave it. There's no problems with that. But if you've created your own loadout or your own loadout definition that has different best sets, you can go ahead and click this Analyze Depth button here. You can select your loadout or your loadout definition here, and then you can just go ahead and click OK, and it will run the analysis for that. You'll want to set this up because when we use mod maintenance, it's going to show you charts based on the mod depth that we run here. And the key part of this is just to analyze and determine what the best sets for every unit are. So I'm going to go ahead, I'll just leave it as HotUtils defaults. If you're fine with HotUtils defaults, you don't even have to come into this screen at all. But if you want to override it, go ahead and come in here, select the loadout definition or the loadout that you've set up and used, and run the analysis. So let's go ahead and just jump into mod maintenance. When you click the component over here on the left, the first time you'll be presented with a settings wizard that'll walk you through setting up your basic settings in the tools. The first tab is selecting a loadout, and we created that earlier, but we'll go ahead and I'm going to type in mod, maintenance demo here. And I also get the option to use in-game. You can use in-game. All your changes that will be made will be pushed directly and immediately to game. You can use that. My suggestion is to use a loadout though, because it'll allow you to save setting changes, and it will also allow you to make a bunch of swaps and then push the swaps to game at the very end. If you use in-game, every single time you do a swap, it's going to open up a game connection. It'll take longer, it'll be a little more laggy. So definitely the preferred method is to create a loadout and use the loadout. The next question is whether you want to treat this as a full baseline, or whether you're just doing a small squad-based loadout. Mod maintenance can be used, like if you have a cam loadout or something, but it's really more intended for a full baseline modding. If you have a small squad-based roster, you can do a full re-automation if you want to. So I'm going to select my loadout, I'm going to leave this checked, I'm going to go ahead and click next. Now I get my settings. The first one is default, whether I want to allow broken sets or not, and that can be overwritten per unit. So what that means is when the tool proposes a mod swap for you, by default, will you allow it to break sets that have been completed? And I like to leave this one unchecked, but if you want the default behavior to be to allow broken sets, you can go ahead and do it. Remember, this can be overwritten on a per unit basis. You can say something like, my Darth Revan needs to be super fast, so it's okay for him to break sets. But my Padme, I don't want her to break sets. So you can set this on a per unit basis. This is just the default behavior. The second checkbox is to force the same primary. That again is for the proposed swaps that the tool gives you. The tool will use our stat weights to determine if a mod is better than the mod it currently has on, but if you only want it to show mods that have the same primaries, you can go ahead and check that. Finally is allow target editing. So if you want to make sure you don't mess up your loadout definition settings and just kind of prevent you from accidentally clicking something, you can uncheck this. By default, you'll go ahead and allow it, because we'll make some changes to, maybe we'll change the primary on something, or we'll make some tweaks to the loadout. So I like to keep this checked. The improve method is, by default, it's going to be loadout score, so that's going to be based on your stat weights that you give it, and HotUtils will come with some default stat weights for your loadouts, but you can select a improve method of speed only. So it basically just says as long as the mod is faster, consider that a better mod than the mod that I have currently on the unit. So these are some good settings by default. Next, let's go to priorities. Priorities, it's important because when it proposes swaps to you, it's going to put the units that are higher in priority at the top of the list, and the lower level units at the bottom of the list. So it does save you a lot of time. It makes things easier if you prioritize it correctly. If you've got a loadout that you've used in Playground, it's going to use the priorities that are in your loadout definition that you've set through Playground. You can go ahead and just come to the bottom, drag and drop units. I think by default it uses the total galactic power of the units, but you can go ahead and change this. It really doesn't break anything if your priorities aren't correct, but it does save some time. It makes the tool run a little better if you do have correct priorities. Finally, we have a concept called a locker unit. And this is a new concept that we're introducing into HotUtils, and we're going to probably roll it out to a few different parts of the application. But basically what it says is that there are some units that you have used to just put mods on that you don't really use those units in like GAC or Territory Wars. You just stash good mods on them because you want mod space. They're essentially a locker for mods. So when we look at what mods are good to swap, we want to consider all the mods that are unequipped, but then we also want to consider mods on quote-unquote locker units, because locker units, you essentially are just using them for storage. And what we want to do here is just mark what those units are that are locker units. Now, I can go ahead and do this individually, and usually you'll go to the bottom and work your way up. But there's a button here called All Below. So you might want to say, after you've done priority, you might want to say, okay, where is it that the units start to get low priority, and just click All Below. So click all those units that that are not that important to you. Maybe they're low gear level, you just don't use them that much, and that you've been just stashing mods on them. Once we're done that, go ahead and click OK. And you're presented with the main screen. So the filters up here are pretty intuitive. You click on them, it's going to filter by the type of mod. You click on this right here, you can filter by sets and different primaries to get what you want. You can also sort mods by speed and offense and things like that. By default, what it does is it sorts by speed secondary, because those are, obviously usually the most desirable mods that you have. And then you have a filter. What it shows by default are all the unequipped mods, so mods that aren't assigned to anyone, and all the mods that are on your locker units, because remember, those locker units are, I just stash good mods on them. I don't actually use those units. So it's going to show you all of those mods. You can go ahead and click settings. It'll bring you back to that wizard that we had before, but let's go ahead and do a swap. Here's a great mod that I just sliced the other day. So, potency, set, protection, and it's got 24 speed. And I know I want to find a good home for that. So I go ahead and click on that mod, and I'm going to be presented some information. We'll get back to depth when we talk about selling mods, but you have a depth chart here. You also have the ability to upgrade the mod here, so you can slice it and you can level it. But the swap tab is what we're looking at right now. And we go on there, and the tool is going to, based on your stat weights for units, it's going to look at all the units and the mods that are assigned to them, and it's going to suggest to you, hey, we think these are units that might be good for swap. So it looks at B2 Battle Droid and it says, hey, this might be a good swap. It shows you what mod they currently have on. It shows you the percentage of score change based on the weights, and then it has the ability to go ahead and initiate a swap, or you can add this unit to a locker, because sometimes you'll see a unit that you forgot to click on locker and you think, oh, this unit really should be a locker. So B2 I think would be great. Old Ben I think is also great. Let's say I want to go ahead and swap. I want to take this mod and I want to put it on Old Ben. I think it's a good fit for him. So I'll go ahead and click swap, and I'll be presented with a summary here. And I go ahead and click OK, swap. Now what that's done is it's immediately updated my loadout. So I could go ahead and push that to game by clicking push to game here, or I can continue to use the tool a little bit more. One other nice thing that you'll see is that the mod that used to be on Old Ben is now thrown back into the mod swap pool. So you can progressively take mods off and now put this mod on a unit that might like it better. Let's go and do this mod now too. Go ahead and click on this. It's also got a great speed. And go ahead and click swap. And one of the things we could see is we can go ahead and expand this to see some details. Here you're going to see some of the same fields that you see in Playground. It will give you a summary of this is all the mods that he has on currently, and this is what it would look like if you go ahead and do the swap. You can get a summary of the stats, seeing how they would increase or decrease. You can see the weights here, and the weights determine the score. So the reason it's going up or maybe it's going down are based on the weights that you see here. By default, that's coming from HotUtils that we use, but if you've created your own loadout and set your own stat weights, that'll be imported into this tool, and whether the suggestion is made to swap or not will be shown to you. There's also a requirement summary here, and also this unit's forced primary or set restrictions are here too. So let's say, for instance, you found a, let's find a good one. Let's say Paplu, for instance. You know, you actually saw this and you're like, I don't want Paplu to have, or Kanan maybe. Kanan's a good example. Let's say I don't want Kanan to have suggested this mod because I want Kanan to have health for whatever reason. And you want to kind of progressively update your loadout. I'll just go ahead and click here under primaries. I'll say, you know, Kanan really should only use health circles. So I'll go ahead and click on him. It's going to update my loadout, and you'll see that Kanan has disappeared. He's no longer considered a good fit for this swap. Now I can still find Kanan if I want to by typing it in here, but you'll see that he's gray, and that's because it violates a rule. You'll see the requirement summary here that he failed. If I look at the mods here, it fails it because it's not the right primary. Let's go ahead and delete this. There's also a couple filters. We can go ahead and show, we can sort by the improvement amount. Right now it's sorted by priority. So the Mandalorian Beskar armor is my highest priority that has an improvement. But if you want to sort by the score change, you can sort by improvement amount. And you'll see IG-11 gets the biggest percent change. He's really low in my priority order, but what you might want to do is come down here and you say, oh, okay, my Magna Guard, he's actually pretty high in my priority order, and he gets a big boost from it. So maybe I want to swap for him. And here I can show all and sort by priority, and you'll get all units, including ones that, you know, break rules that you've given. For this case, you know, I lose a speed set, and a speed set might be required for Lord Vader. So let's go ahead and just do a couple more, and you'll see kind of how naturally this tool works. Let's go ahead and pick First Order Stormtrooper. Let's do that swap. Go ahead and swap that there. Let's pick this one right here. Looks like Grand Moff Tarkin. You know, he's gonna get a little bit of speed. Is there anybody else who gets a big bump that's good? Yeah, maybe Grand Moff Tarkin would be good. Not a huge score change for him, but it does maintain the same primary. I get a 6E and I get 1 speed boost. So let's go ahead and do that. And I swap. And finally, let's pick a mod that already has a unit assigned to it. So in this case, Bodhi, who's one of my locker units, I go ahead and select this, and let's find a swap for him. So if I swap with Echo, for instance, Echo's going to get about 6 speed, which looks pretty good. I'll go ahead and click swap. And what the tool will actually do is it will take the mod off of Echo and put the mod that currently is on Echo on Bodhi, and take the mod that's on Bodhi and put it on Echo. That's where the original swap mod terminology came into place, because it doesn't, when you use it in game, you end up with like mods taken off of people and left all over the place. Let's go ahead and do the swap there. And one thing I like about using this tool is I can sit here, you know, I can mod for a couple of weeks, and then just come in here and play with this for a while. Now, there might be some mods that don't have any suspected improvements. Let's take this one. It's got a real low speed. I've got two mods, but they're both on suggestions for locker units. So what if I only want to see the mods that have improvements for non-locker units? We have a filter for that. So I can say improvable, and it'll do a quick calculation. And these are all the mods that would improve units that are not locker mods. So what I can do is I can click this here, I can go to swap, and now you can see, you know, this one's not a locker unit, this one's not a locker unit. So maybe Akbar, you know, would be nice to move him to a little bit faster. I don't use him that much. Let's say I don't like this. Now if I want to just cycle through it, I can go ahead and click the next button, and now it's going to take me to this health mod. You see, I'm farming a lot of defense mods lately. Let's get this health one, protection. I can gain, maybe I can put this on Rolo. I'll go ahead and do that swap. I'll give her 3 extra speed. Swap. Nope, it recalculates all the mods that offer improvements. That's a good filter if you want to see, but sometimes you want to look at, you know, unequipped and locker, because, you know, maybe it doesn't think that this one right here is an improvement, but you know, hey, I really, you know, I want to see what this mod would look like on maybe Commander Luke Skywalker. So I'm gonna type here Commander, you know, oh, he's got, you know, a tenacity circle, so that's actually not a good swap for him. So you can show everything, or you can just show improvable things. So when I think about mod maintenance, I think of a couple of things. I think I have all these mods. I want to know, will the mod improve any unit that I have? And if it doesn't improve the unit, can I sell it safely? Those are kind of the two questions, because if I can sell it safely, then I just want to sell the mod. Let's pick a mod, for instance, right here. It's a 9-speed offense mod. I probably think I can sell that, but let's take a look. I'll go ahead and click on that. Now, mod depth will give you a summary of what offense set, circle, health primary mods look like, to tell you how deep you are in that specific mod, and it will help you know whether or not you can sell this mod. You get a quick summary up here that says this mod is slower than the slowest need number of mods. It's possible this mod can be sold. So what does that mean? My mod depth calculations have told me that I need 8 offense health circle mods, and that I have 15, and that my score is 15. And if I look at this chart, I have 15 of these type of mods. I have one that's 26 speed. I have one, it looks like I have 2 that are 15. I have 2 that are 14. I have 2 that are 13. And if you take 8, because I need 8, and you take the fastest 8, so it's 1 here, and then 3, and then 5, and then 7, and then here is, so everything that's in this color, starting from the fastest, going to the slowest, would cover my need. And then everything that's left of that is kind of over my need. Now, I've also highlighted where my mod is, so the 9 speed. The 9 speed lies right here. So it is outside my need. It's not that far outside my need, but, you know, I've got a good deal faster mods. I might be able to sell this. I would actually go ahead and sell this mod. But let's take a look at a mod that maybe isn't outside that need. Let's take a look at this one right here. It's a 14 speed. Now here, this mod, I need 26 of them, and I only have 15. So all of the mods are going to show up as need. And my mod is here. It's colored a different color. So this tells me I shouldn't sell this mod because it's within my, I actually need more of these mods. It's not a good example to sell. So hopefully mod maintenance and these charts can give you a little bit of answering that question of, can I sell this mod? How many better mods do I have than this? And if I have confidence that I have a lot of better mods, then that lets me sell, that lets me clean stuff up. Finally, once you're done, you've done all your modding, you've sold stuff, if you want to go ahead and push the game, you can either go to loadouts, find that loadout that we're editing. Remember, it's here, it's this maintenance demo one that we've made all of our changes here, or you can go ahead and click here, push the game. It's going to tell you how much it costs, and you can go ahead and click the push to game button, and you can push the changes to game. A couple of key things that I will kind of make note of is that every time you come into this tool and use it, it will be tied to your maintenance demo loadout. If you have made modding changes in game, it's going to be acting as if the maintenance demo is up to date. So make sure that this loadout is up to date and it has the latest and greatest changes that you want. If you've made changes in game and not through the tool and not through mod swap, go ahead and go into loadouts, find that maintenance demo, go ahead and click the update button, and what the update button will do is it will take everything that's in game and it will update your loadout. So it'll replace what your loadout has. If you want to do everything through safely, just always use mod maintenance and always push through this. Last thing I wanted to show you guys is how we've integrated a lot of the rules that loadout definitions have into mod maintenance, so that when you do a swap, you can feel safe about the swap. Let's take this mod for instance. I'll go ahead and click on this and look at the swap suggestion. It tells me that tech would be a good swap for this mod. Now let's put a rule in place that would be broken if I swapped. So for instance, his current speed is 283 and it would move it to 287. So let's hypothetically make a rule that we want Wrecker, because if we go ahead and look at Wrecker, Wrecker right now is 299. So let's put a rule in place that would be broken if we made this swap. So to do that, I'll go into Playground, and for those of you who don't use Playground, don't use modding rules like this, you can ignore this section. Actually, you can probably stop watching the video, but I'm gonna select Bad Batch here. First of all, I gotta open my loadout maintenance demo, and then I'm gonna go to Bad Batch. I'm gonna say Wrecker, and I'm gonna go to Advanced, and I'm gonna add a new requirement. I'm gonna say record speed, and I'm gonna compare to, I think it was tech. Is that the suggestion? I hope so. Speed needs to be greater than tech speed plus 15. Okay, so if I go ahead and click OK, now if I look at Wrecker, his speed has to be 15 speed greater than tech, which he barely makes right now. But if I were to increase tech speed, he would fail that check. So a lot of times when you have specific turn orders put in place, you're hesitant to do mod swaps because you don't want to break those turn orders. Let's go back into mod maintenance. Alright, here's my mod. Go to swap. Now it still suggests tech, but let's see what happens when I click the swap button. I have a warning for failed requirements. Why don't we eliminate that from a swap suggestion? It has to do with complexity. We can't look at this is actually not breaking a tech requirement. It's actually breaking a Wrecker requirement. if we had a requirement that said tech should be 15 slower than Wrecker, you wouldn't even see this as a suggestion. But we do run all the analysis on all the requirements, and we'll give you failed requirements that are triggered if you were to make this swap. So if you're a heavy Playground user and you've set up all those requirements, stat requirements, relative turn order requirements, you will get warnings here. It is going to help you keep those stat requirements that you've set up in your loadout definition. So that's it for the demo. I hope you guys enjoy the tool as much as I like using it, and I hope it's a new way for people who maybe are a little overwhelmed by Playground to get into some of our modding tools slowly, and it's not quite as overwhelming. If the adoption of this tool is pretty good, I'll look into maybe adding some more features to it, but hopefully it fits kind of an area there where people don't want to do full roster remods, but they want to progressively keep their roster up to date and better.